Hey y'all, Madison here with SMNP Reviews, and today I want to discuss with you some simple test-taking strategies to help you all when it comes time to take your boards. I was a student who literally had the most debilitating testing anxiety ever. It stemmed from early childhood when I failed a milestone exam and was almost held back for 2 points. Being a straight A student, this really put a damper on how I felt about standardized testing and impacted me negatively my whole entire life. However, thanks to a provider who listened to my concerns regarding my testing anxiety and the SMNP review team who helped me come up with a game plan, I was able to take and pass both ANCC and AANP boards on my first try. Now I have the tips and tricks to teach other students who may also struggle with the same worries that I have. The biggest key here is getting that test anxiety under control or to a healthy level before testing day and practicing this. This is not a monster that we want to try and defeat for the first time on test day. This is something that we should be discussing and practicing as we start preparing for our board exams. For some, like me, this may be something you also want to bring up to your primary care provider. A crucial piece to your board prep is to come up with a testing anxiety game plan for test day. For me, this was pausing every 25 questions, taking a mental break, putting my head down, and reading my "You Will Pass" on my dump sheet, and just saying a small prayer and reminding myself that I had put the time and effort into this program and that I would pass my boards. For others, it could be taking a bathroom break, splashing water in your face, or getting a sip of water outside the testing room. Just don't forget that your time is still ticking on your test while you're on your break, and you most definitely want to be sure that you've practiced taking full-length exams before this so that you have a good gauge on the time that you take on your break. And finally, find healthy ways to alleviate stress and be able to have self-care and not cram the day prior to test day so that you're able to give yourself a mental break. Trust me, you're going to need that mental break. Some basic test-taking tips that are super important to know is 1, if you don't know an answer to a question right off the top of your head, that's okay. You're not expected to know everything on your board exams. You will never know everything when you're practicing, so your exams don't expect that of you. When you get to a tough question, skip it, star it, don't answer it, and come back to it at the end. And do whatever works best for you. You can also utilize other test-taking strategies like process of elimination and going with your gut answer. Remember, it's just one question. The test does not expect you to get a 100%. We really only need roughly 70% to pass board exams. If you've skipped it, come back to that question at the end and spend time on it. What we want to avoid, though, is you finding yourself in a bind and starting to change your answers or have self-doubt. We never want you going and changing your answers unless you're 110% sure. Go with your gut answer when you're unsure, and the majority of the time, that one will be correct. The second test-taking tip I want to share is read the end of the question first and see what the question is looking for and find any keywords and then read the beginning. This is great as it helps decrease the confusion that you may feel while reading a long questions. And remember, the exams can have long questions sometimes. Also, make sure you are prepared for your exam. The last thing that we want is you cramming or going in and winging it. We want you to go in feeling the absolute best that you can and be able to remind yourself how well you've prepared for this moment. For me, I started by doing a review on my own and reading. I enjoyed it, but it was a lot of information. Then my school provided us with a long in-depth review course that was information overload. Then I found Sarah Michelle MP Reviews on Facebook. I read the reviews and decided to give it a go. I felt very unprepared going into the Sarah Michelle live review course, but ultimately by the end, I felt way more prepared than I ever could have been for my test. Because of this course, I passed both boards the first time with a brand new baby. And lastly, please don't study the day before your exam. At this point, you know what you know, and you need to give your brain a break. Studying the day before just allows your brain to become more tired and go into information overload. The day before your exam, you should allow for rest, self-care, and doing something that you enjoy. So these exams are 50% content knowledge and 50% having that test anxiety under control. With the live Sarah Michelle MP review course, my content piece was taken care of. With this review course, you definitely get out what you put in. But for me, the live review had all the tools that I needed to be successful. Then comes the other half, the exam anxiety management. With each student, this is going to be different. I personally have debilitating, I can't breathe, I can't focus, and I can't see straight testing anxiety. My PCP and I came up with a great game plan for me when it came to taking NCLEX and both boards for ANCC and AANP. And talking to my provider and having this game plan calmed me down tremendously, allowing me to be successful when I took my boards. Talking to your PCP can help you figure out a game plan for what is best for you as an individual, no matter the situation. Another thing that helped me tremendously is self-care. So I did things that I enjoyed, like spending time with my family and going out for a run with my friends, or going out for a massage, or just having a day off from studying. But honestly, anything that takes your mind off of this and gets your anxiety down. It's also important to get a good night's sleep before boards. I know, this is way easier said than done. And eating a healthy breakfast, as well as getting to the exam center and kind of scoping the place out. You have to do what's best for you in order to be successful when you take these board exams. And then during your exam itself, remember the game plan that we've put in place to help you when you get flustered. This can include marking off every 25 questions and taking a break, taking deep breaths, utilizing the "you will pass" saying on your dump sheet. And another idea that really helped me while I was taking my test, when I felt myself getting flustered, was when I didn't understand a question, I would take everything that the question was asking out of my head, dump it onto my dump sheet, and write down everything I knew about that situation. So here we have a practice question, which is my last tip for you. Practice, practice, practice. You should absolutely be doing practice questions and full-length practice tests to walk you through the process that you're going to see when you get to your exam, especially when you're mentally fatigued partway of the way through your exam. The more you've done prior to your exam day question-wise, the better you're going to feel. So let's walk you through what I do when I get flustered on an exam question. So you have a patient who presents with fever for the past couple of days, and now they have a rash on their hands and feet. They've recently come back from a camping trip. What do you suspect? So I'm going to work you through this the way I would write this down on my dump sheet. So we know they've recently come back from a camping trip. That's our first key phrase. The second one is they had a fever followed by a rash on their hands and feet. So with those two key phrases, the camping trip especially, it narrows it down to Lyme disease and Rocky Mountain spotted fever. And then the fever followed by the rash on the hands and feet, I know that Rocky Mountain spotted fever has a rash on the hands and feet. And so that's how I would pick that answer. I would eliminate hand, foot, and mouth disease and fifth disease, as these are not typically contracted during camping trips, and both of these are childhood exanthems. Another question, what causes Rocky Mountain spotted fever? So to walk through this one, we know that Lyme disease and Rocky Mountain spotted fever are caused by tick bites. So that gives us the answer because we already know that it was Rocky Mountain spotted fever. Mosquito bites cause West Nile and Zika, and snake bites are a whole other issue in themselves, and we are not going to discuss those today. So how will you treat Rocky Mountain spotted fever? So when you're using this brain dump sheet, you write down every single thing that you know about Rocky Mountain spotted fever. And with doing that, I use the mnemonic Rocky Doxy, Rocky Doxy, Rocky Doxy. So no matter what, Rocky Mountain spotted fever is always going to be treated with doxycycline because the benefit outweighs the risk. Which would also answer our next question. How will you treat Rocky Mountain spotted fever in a pregnant woman or a 6-year-old child? If you wrote down Rocky Doxy, then you're going to know that the benefit always outweighs the risk for that. So if you guys can just slow down when you get in a panic from not knowing something, write down literally everything, dump your brain and all the information you know about a question onto your paper. You can usually eliminate a couple of answers, which can help you with an educated guess. So the last thing that I want to say is that we're rooting for you. If you've put the time and effort in and you're tired of hearing us teach and talk in these videos and you've practiced that game plan for getting flustered on exam day, then those are really good signs usually that you're ready to take and pass your board exams. Always remember that you can do this and you will be successful and you'll pass. And we are rooting for you, friends. We can't wait to see your passing emails from when you guys pass your boards on exam day.